Alright, I have margaritas again, and it's time for a redo of Drunk History, but Special Interest Info Dump Hour, because the first time was kind of a disaster. We're doing the Dark Crystal this time, on request of my very much beloved best friend Red. So, for those who aren't familiar with the Dark Crystal, it was originally an 80s movie produced originally using all puppetry, no human actors anywhere, which I think just slaps as a concept. They also did a Netflix series set in the same world pretty recently, which is part of what caused me to watch it and be like, oh hey, special interest. And yeah, so basic world building construct. This is not Earth, this is a planet called Thra. There are 3 suns. Don't ask me about how that works. I don't know shit about the astronomy. I'll say, yes, I'm having margaritas out of a coffee mug. Don't judge me. So, yeah, and so the primary native species are the gelflings, who are kind of weird deer people. They're pretty small. I've heard that they're like 3 feet tall. I don't know if that's true. Either they're 3 feet tall and the Skeksis are like 4 to 5 feet tall, which is hilarious to me. Like, I could pick the Emperor up. Or the Skeksis are really big and the Gelfling are actually closer to human size. I prefer the former. I've heard both takes. I don't know which is supposed to be true. It's native species. The Gelflings are kind of like weird deer people. They're weird looking. It's fine. They're puppets. And the Podlings, who are a little bit smaller. There's a decent amount of Podling directed racism in canon at some points. Like, they all get forcibly washed at one point because Podlings are dirty. I don't necessarily like that too much, honestly. But yeah. Oh, also a bunch of non-sentient species. Also the Arathim. Who cares? I'm gonna go with Sindarin pronunciation, Arathim. Or spiders. And they can take over your brain. But yeah, the other sets of species, oh yes, also there's Mother Agra, who's like kind of a caretaker sort of goddess, but not really figure. She's like the embodiment of Thra, basically. But she's important. She has a son who doesn't show up in the show, so I'm not going to talk about him too much. Roundup or Ronip. We like Finnish pronunciation. I'm just going to go with Roundup because he's not in the show, so it doesn't matter. Yeah. And then the Urskeks were aliens, and there's this thing called the Crystal of Truth that's at the center of Thra, and it's life force, basically. There are supposedly other crystals on other worlds, and the Urskeks show up via a portal from one of those. There are 18 of them originally. They're weird looking. And this thing called the Great Conjunction happens. The Urskeks basically split into 2 halves. 2 halves of the same person, so the Skeksis and the Mystics. And the Mystics are all about like calm and peace, and they're the good half, basically. And the Skeksis are like untrammeled emotion, passion, evil, scheming, hedonism, that kind of thing. I don't think it's as simple as good and evil, but in terms of what they actually do, it lines up to the good and evil halves. And the Mystics are sort of like vaguely horse-looking. The Skeksis are bird, crocodile things. Like, they look like humanoid. They have 4 arms, birds' heads, but with teeth, tails, bird, crocodile, humanoid things. I like it very much, and I would like to be a Skeksis, please and thank you. Oh, also, singular Skeksis, plural Skeksis. I really like that from a linguistic perspective. It's fun. So yeah, they split into 2 halves. The Crystal of Truth gets corrupted into the Dark Crystal. The Skeksis start using it to drain energy. Well, not at first. The mystics self-isolate in a valley. They don't really want to get like involved with Thra too much. The Skeksis do not. The Skeksis build the Castle of the Crystal, or like the Urskiks build the Castle of the Crystal actually, but the Skeksis keep living there. A couple of them die like right off the bat. I think somebody gets thrown into a fiery chasm or something. That's fine. Yeah, I think so, and then that happens to Skektek later too. I love Skektek. Yeah, okay. I'm actually gonna do this in multiple parts probably because I have to piss. But more plot and character summary. Okay, we're going for part 2. So the Skeksis' big thing is they want power and they want to be immortal. They're terrified of death. So for a while it seems like everything's great. They're gonna live forever. They're very long-lived compared to like the Gelfling. Also, there's some ambiguity about whether the plural is Gelfling or Gelflings. I also enjoy that from a linguistic perspective. Anyways. So at first they kind of leech energy from the Crystal of Truth, and it's all like fine and good for a while. Then that stops working. Oh, also 7 Gelfling clans. I think it's 7. If I'm remembering correctly, it's 7. And there's indications that maybe the Skeksis kind of set these up. It's not like a natural power dynamic exactly, even though it is very much, it starts off as a power dynamic in show. Yeah, the Vapra, the most cultured ruling clan, basically they're the government, they live in the city Harar in the mountains. There's an apostrophe in there, so sometimes, like I think my friend said it should be an ejective once, even though there's no way to do an ejective with any of those sounds. Anyway, it's okay. Sometimes things aren't the same as IPA, and that's okay. Yeah, and there's the Sifa, who are seafarers, fortune tellers. They wander around. The Stonewood, who are like... I keep wanting to think they're smiths, but I don't think they are necessarily. They're like warriors. They live in a place called Stone in the Wood. Yeah. The Drenchen, who live in a swamp. Sprighton live on fields that are with farmers and warriors, I think, is established in the novels, which is interesting. Interesting combination. My brain's being stupid, I'm not sure what all of the others are. I didn't ready to count. There's also the Groton, who live in caves and are believed to be extinct by the outside world. This is not true. I feel like there's another one, or I can't do math, but I can't remember what it is, which is embarrassing. Yeah, anyway, so those are the 7, probably I can't count, clans of Gelfling. Actually, hang on, I can pull this up. Apologies for the delay. I need to check. Oh yeah, I did forget when there's also the Duslan, who live in the desert and are quote-unquote obsessed with death. And supposedly worship death, and they have a bunch of really cool tattoos and shit, and I like them. Yeah. I knew I was forgetting one. See, I know that I'm forgetting things even when I can't remember what I'm forgetting. So yeah, those are the Gelfling clans. The start of Age of Resistance, everything seems like okay. The clans are in place. There's the Skeksis, with the Skeksis as overlords, and the Mystics self-isolated in the Valley of the Mystics. Oh, also, I should clarify about the Skeksis and the Mystics. What happens to the body of one happens to the other. Like, Skektek gets thrown into this sort of pit of the crystal, and his corresponding Mystic, or T, just spontaneously combusts. It should not be really funny, but it actually is. And the others just like turn and look at him, and yeah, okay. So start of Age of Resistance, clans in place, Skeksis as overlords. Everything seems okay on the surface, and I've seen it suggested that this is a metaphor for capitalism that probably checks out. My first response to the Skeksis was basically, first, oh god, this is the Borgia papacy. Second, oh god, I wish that were me, so do with that what you will. Actually, I'm gonna tell you about the Skeksis, because that's what my my primary interest in here is. So that should probably happen. I spent the first take on this, like 80% of it was character relevant info dumping and not too much plot summary. But yeah. Actually, we're gonna make this a part 3. Let's just do it 5-minute, 6-minute chunks, okay? Okay, here we go for part 3. I'm going to explain the Skeksis and then get into like very quick plot summary, because we want to keep this to hopefully 20 minutes if we can, and let's be real, half of what I'm in this for is the Skeksis to hydrate myself. I will get less of a headache if I actually hydrate myself and don't just drink margaritas and nothing else for 4 hours. So Exo the Emperor is one of my 3 favorites. He wears a lot of black and purple, very aesthetic. He dies within like, what, 10 minutes in the original movie. He just like disintegrates into dust because he's been very ill for a while, because he's on both Essence, which is metaphorically not space drugs, but fantasy drugs. I get this mixed up with Transformers sometimes emotionally. And also on the dark, he's trying to use the darkening for power, which is basically a corruption caused by the Skeksis' own corruption of the Dark Crystal. And I'll get into that in a little bit. Emperor is like, he's very pretty to start with. Not pretty, that's not the right word. He's fucking weird looking, but like, I want to look like that. He's the first and last Skeksis Emperor. He's obsessed with immortality, obsessed with power. He does not let anyone challenge him. I think he just smacks people with his scepter if they try, which is, yeah, okay, mood. Yeah, he apparently used to be like a big kind of dueling person when he was younger, which is fun. I like that. And beat all the challengers, which has made me wonder, like, did they have him fighting other Skeksis at least, or was he just, like, beating the shit out of random Gelfling who were volunteered to challenge him? I don't know. I kind of want him to have been beating the shit out of other Skeksis, because that would have implied, like, I don't know, probably maybe, like, Hunter, Ritual Master. He's conniving bastard. As he gets older, I think he descends more into, like, just kill everybody. It's quick, efficiency, kind of shit. Yeah, he's scared of death. He's kind of cold, kind of a bastard. More than kind of a bastard. The Chamberlain. the second in command, more or less, second in line for the throne. He's a Starscream. He's very, like, conniving court schemer archetype. He has a weird voice, he has weird speech patterns, he uses third person a lot, I like it. It's fun. He is, as of the wiki, the Chief Secretary of State. Why they have a Secretary of State, I don't know. He makes a grab for the position of Emperor after Skekso, the Emperor, dies. Chamberlain's name is Skekso. He fails, he gets exiled. He's arguably one of the big bads of Age of Resistance, because the Skeksis have one brain cell between them, and Chamberlain and scientists take turns with it. He's a conniving bastard, he's awful, he thinks he's better than the Gelflings. It is fantasy racist, yes. He pretends to be friends with the general and then literally stabs him when he's injured as revenge for General taking his place in Emperor's favor. He's a nasty little backstabber. I think I said once that he was what Starscream would be if Starscream had any emotional regulation, and I still feel that. He's also got a really high-pitched voice, it's kind of fun. But it's like, it's all put on. He doesn't naturally talk like that. I've had a theory that he actually speaks Gelfling better than a lot of the other Skeksis. He's just pretending he doesn't speak it because, oh, look at poor innocent Chamberlain. I don't speak your language. Be nice to Chamberlain, please. I'm not good at the voices, but I hope that entertained. I'm actually going down the wiki list because I'm very forgetful when I drink this much. Scientist. One of my other three favorites. I've been diagnosed Chamberlain by the community, partly because of the analogy to Starscream, and partly because I'm also a conniving bastard. Skektek is the scientist. He's got issues. He likes being praised, he likes being valued. He's the person who figured out how to tap the Dark Crystal / the Crystal of Truth for energy. He's basically like mad scientist archetype. He has issues about nobody else appreciates him enough, nobody else likes him enough. His counterparts treat him as a weakling, he doesn't like that. He isn't even allowed to fight in the final battle. He's made to stay at home and he goes fucking apeshit. He gets thrown into the chasm of the crystal and dies like that in the movie. I love Skektek, I relate to him very deeply. Also, he has kind of like a rivalry friendship with the Chamberlain. It's complicated, and then Chamberlain gets his eye gouged out because he's the person who figures out how to tap Gelflings for essence, and thus for eternal life with the Skeksis. Then he gets some of the essence stolen from him, and Chamberlain is also there, and it's partly his fault. Chamberlain gets Skektek blamed for it. Skektek gets gets one of his eyes eaten by a beetle. He later makes a prosthetic. He also allegedly cut off an arm and a leg to make better new prosthetics for himself. I think that's very cool. He's fucking batshit. I love him. Also, he's so desperate for praise and attention and validation from everybody. He's terrible too, but I love him. I love him so much. Skekvar later on becomes the general. He starts off as the ambassador. He's very stupid. I love him, but he's so fucking stupid. He wants to stab everything, quick, efficient, murder everybody. Easy solution. He looks like, you know those pictures of eagles that are like, from the front, they're like, oh, so majestic from the side, but from the front they look fucking stupid. That's exactly what he looks like, and that's exactly what he is. He's kind of honest, actually. He's loyal. He's very devoted to Skekso the Emperor. He trusts Chamberlain after he basically stole Chamberlain's position at Emperor's right hand. That is a mistake. He should not. I love him. He's a dumbass. he gets murdered by Chamberlain. First like serious case of sexist murder. The ritual master is a nasty little sadist. I love him. He's modeled after a combination of an Orthodox priest and Rasputin. Yes, that one. He's the guy primarily responsible for gouging out Skektek's eye. He thinks he's the Emperor's right hand, sort of. He's third in line of succession. I feel like nobody likes him too much because he's like me, in a way. Sadistic, obsessed with like ritual and order and how things are done. He has some degree of like prophetic or magical shit going on. Okay, there's gonna be part 4. Okay, part 4 or 5, I don't know which it is. It's one of those. Next, Skek-Un, the Gartham Master. Later on, the General, later the Emperor. He kind of fills the same role as Skekfar, the General, does. He's a little bit less of a dumbass and a little bit more of a sadist about it. He has a rivalry with the Chamberlain. They fight it out for the throne. Skek-Un wins. He's later the Emperor. He's bastard about it. I don't know a ton about him, honestly, because he's not in the show. Skeksa, Mariner, she's gay. She's a pirate. She kind of patronizes the Sifa. She's like their personal Skeksas. She's very big, very fighty. She doesn't really hang around a lot at court, I think, because she doesn't get along with the Emperor, but don't quote me on that. And she's good. Skekshad, the treasurer, got smacked over the head by the Emperor once for challenging his rule, so he kind of has a concussion, and that fucked him up. He likes money, he likes bribes. That's really the most relevant information. Scrollkeeper, Skekok. He is very small, very delicate looking. He has so many fucking pairs of glasses. He does the record keeping. He changes it a lot based on his personal alliances, which change all the time. He's fun, I like him. He also has the beak shape I like. Skekna, Slave Master, which sure is the title. I don't know a ton about him either, because he's only in the movie and they get less characterization there. He has a hook for one hand, I think. I think World of the Dark Crystal says he has snacks for the other Skeksis, which I love. Like, yeah, look at this horrible, nasty bastard, but he has the snacks. He's the snack guy. Satirist, he has fucky speech patterns. I think he uses third person a lot or something. Not third person, plural. He uses first person plural a lot, maybe. He's a schemer. He resents so much that the others don't take him seriously because he's the satirist. He's basically the court jester. Yeah, I love him. He's Skeklock. It's supposed to be Skeklock, I think, but I've refused to not say Skeklock because CH ought to be IPAX, and because I love that sound, objectively. Is of ambiguous gender. Is a man in the novels and the comics. Is also very big in the show. Has a voice actress and is referred to as she and by some Word of God material. So I'm just calling it Skeklock Trans. And I love her. She's the collector. She has like pustules on her face. She's aggressively pessimistic. I think I've seen her called the Eeyore of the group before. She's fun. She's friends with Skekok, the Scrollkeeper. Her job is basically collecting tithes. Her title in the novels was Census Taker, which sucks. I like Collector a lot better. She's also very small in the show compared to the novels, which is fun. We love that. Ornamentalist, a big vibe. Hedonistic to a fault. Dyed hair. basically, his name is Skekekt. It's a very high voice, but is referred to as a man, I think. There's some nasty shit from Word of God about Skekekt's ornamentalists, gender, and like gender ambiguity evil, but we ignore that because we love him. He's very like hedonistic, vain, appearance-focused, luxury-focused. He's fun. He's kind of a mood. Dyed red hair, which is fun. Killed 100 birds to make one cloak, which is, like, that's the kind of excess we're talking about with the Skeksis. I like him. Fandom has concluded that he's sort of married to the Gorman Skekayuk. I don't like that as a name. It doesn't fit the other patterns. I wish it was one syllable, but so it goes. He's kind of part of a group with Ornamentalist, Scrollkeeper. They just kind of sit out. I think also arguably Collector. I know Ornamentalist and Collector are friends. Gourmand and Collector, not Gourmand and Collector, Gourmand and Ornamentalist are friends. They're all kind of like in a... Oh yeah, and Collector and Scrollkeeper are friends. They're all kind of in a group. And they don't like matter as much for the high politics. They're not fighting for the throne, so they just kind of sit out with popcorn together. Gourmand's a little bit like... He has the piss scene. I refuse to elaborate on the piss scene here, but it does very much happen in the show. Yeah, and then the Hunter, one of my other three favorites besides the Emperor and the Scientist. I love him dearly. He's fucking feral. He doesn't live in the castle. He's stayed a lot more like out in the world than the other Skeksis. He's kind of developed his own thing outside the essence of like taking the strength of his trophies, which is He has a skull mask, he has bone armor. We love that. He's generally nasty bastard. He's violent, feral. He dies, sort of. He gets shot by his counterpart, the Archer, strung up on the Emperor's wall as a trophy to reign beside him forever. There's some stuff in fandom about that I've seen that I like very much. Love that. But he actually hasn't died. He sort of gets brought back. He shows up for the final battle between the Skeksis and the Gelfling, which I'm about to elaborate on. We're going to keep this segment at 10 minutes, I promise. It has to happen. I don't want this to be... It's probably already 45 minutes again. Yeah. He shows up in the final battle. He gets killed by Rian, who is one of the ones who discovers that the Skeksis are draining the essence from the Gelflings. God, I love... The Emperor, Scientist, and Hunter are my favorites. So the Skeksis, once the Dark Crystal stops providing them with energy to live forever, start draining the essence, or basically like soul/life energy from Gelflings. Gelflings, via tapping the energy of the Dark Crystal, basically forcing him to look into it. The Gelflings are understandably not too happy about this. I mean, you wouldn't like it if your evil bird thing overlords were draining your souls to live forever, would you? So they start a rebellion after Rian, who discovers it because his girlfriend Mira is drained of her essence. Naya and her twin brother Gurjin, who's also a guard with Rian at the castle. Freya, one of the princesses. Deet, who's Groden. She takes the Darkening into herself, basically, to control it, to fight it. The Darkening is a thing, I mentioned this earlier, but that happens as a result of the Skeksis draining the essence, basically a corruption and Thra makes animals go apeshit. So yeah, they start a rebellion. Eventually, we haven't got a season 2, so at least a lot of the Gelflings, maybe all of them, turn against the Skeksis. By the time of the movie, the Gelfling are all dead, almost. There's 2 left that we see. Kira, raised by podlings, who are kind of treated as less than, basically. and Jen, raised by the Mystics, still in self-isolation in the valley. The Dark Crystal is shattered when it gets corrupted, or before it gets corrupted, actually. Jen and Kira, mostly Jen, replace the shard that gets taken out of it. This restores the Dark Crystal, restores the Urskeks into one, which is another thing they really don't want. Except for the Heretic. I should tell you about the Heretic. The one Urskek who did want to be reunited with his mystic counterpart, Urgo, the Wanderer. And they get kicked out for heresy crimes, and basically just go off into the desert by themselves to wait to train the Gelfling to overthrow the Skeksis. And that does eventually happen. We're not quite sure on the transition between the show, in which it doesn't happen, but they do win a victory against the Skeksis, and the movie, in which it does happen, but almost all the Gelfling are dead. Whoops! And we're almost at 10 minutes, so that is my very extended info dump. Thank you all.